For this month, Ryan requested me on Patreon to review an animated feature from Russia. It's called Sheep and Wolves, and I surprisingly had not heard of it before, so I watched it pretty much blind. At its core, it's essentially an Avatar-type story about a wolf who magically transforms into a sheep, and then upon spending time with them, realizes they're animals too, and you probably get the gist of it. The most surprising thing about Sheep and Wolves is just how complicated the whole thing is. The movie immediately begins by just tossing you in there, and I admit it took me a while to get caught up on everything that's going on. There are a lot of characters in this that we're required to follow, many of them with their own little quirks and story arcs. You have a romance between the main wolf and his girlfriend, there's a sheep with a crush on another sheep, there's a conflict over the throne of the wolf community, plus a storyline with a couple lambs, a suspicious sheep who doesn't trust the wolf, on top of the whole thing with the wolf who's now a sheep. There's a lot to process, and it does not help by how unevenly paced the movie is. This is one of those animated films that zooms by from one scene to the next and there's little flow. Even the scene transitions are odd, as some scenes just stop by fading out, especially unusual as this was a theatrical release in Russia rather than a made-for-TV movie. Then there's the world building. For some reason, the sheep live in regular houses and are technologically advanced, while the wolves are relegated to the mountains and reside in caves. I wasn't sure if this was supposed to be a commentary on anything. Maybe the idea is to show how brains beat brawn, although the director's own interpretation is that the sheep are like hobbits, and the wolves are supposed to be nomads and not confined to a specific place. I also have to mention the main protagonist's girlfriend, who I think the character designers went a little overboard with. All the characters are anthropomorphic animals, which is to be expected, but they made the female wolves way too curvaceous. Of course, I recognize there's an entire community who will probably be okay with that design, and I'm not going to judge you. It was just a little much for me personally. That aside, the animation is passable, and there is a nice amount of detail in the backgrounds, especially the sheep town and the wolves' mountain. While I found most of the characters to be largely uninteresting and unfunny, there is one who is at least somewhat entertaining, and that's the rabbit gypsy who gives the wolf the potion. Maybe it's because her introductory scene is the rare point when the movie takes a breather, but her whole character is laid out pretty well and the animators do a good job with her movements. Or maybe I was just desperate to find someone to like in the movie and she won out. Jim Cummings also voices quite a number of characters in the movie, and he unsurprisingly gives it his all with the various voices he has to do, the most unusual being a seagull who wants to be a sheep. Otherwise, I did not find much to like in Sheep and Wolves. It uses a familiar story and doesn't do anything all that interesting with it, and the filmmakers also filled with too many characters and subplots. It was just hard to get invested as a result. Apparently the film was not quite the breakout success in Russia or in the rest of the world that the studio hoped, but they already had a sequel in the works that was released a few years later. Maybe, with the many characters now somewhat established, they managed to fix the flaws with the sequel. It's certainly possible. Thank you for the request, Ryan.